Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. This is gonna be the top 10 things I like and hate about my Audi S3. Pretty sure most of you guys are gonna know a few of them if you know me personally, so without further ado, let's get to it. Okay, so top 10 thing that I hate about my car is gonna be the MMI or infotainment system or radio, whatever you guys call it. I feel like for a 2015 model year car, this is not acceptable. Like, this little 4.3 inch screen it's not acceptable. Like, come on. Car doesn't have CarPlay, doesn't have how can I say this? Well, I mean, it does technically have iPod connector, but it's for like the old iPods. Doesn't have like a lightning connector or anything, so it's pretty outdated. It all uses buttons. Like I was saying, it all uses buttons to control the infotainment system, which are located in the console. It's pretty basic, relatively. It's still a 3G radio, so it's super slow. Feel like it could be way better designed, just like the Mark 7 Golf has it, which is a whole touchscreen infotainment system that goes like right here. Very well done, works pretty well, and it has Apple CarPlay. I knew that from 2016 Golf GTI that my dad had. Pretty well put together, not like this car. And to consider that this is more expensive than a Golf GTI, it's kind of crazy considering what we're getting interior wise. I just find it kind of funny, relatively, that we're getting that on a pretty much a premium Audi, because it's not a base model, it's not an A3, so it's a premium Audi. I just find it kind of crazy, seriously. Something I wouldn't expect from Audi. And worst part is, this whole system ran with the car up to 2021, I believe, before the 8Y, which is crazy. They did upgrade it to a 4G radio now. They did have CarPlay and all that stuff, but it's still basically the exact same infotainment system, just with upgraded software. Still very laggy. Honestly, not worth the price. For an Audi, that is. The 9th spot goes to one of the things that sometimes makes it super hard to fill up, and it's gonna be the fuel door release. This little piece of shit stopper button, whatever you want to call it, when it gets super hot or cold, sometimes this thing will lock into place. It'll stay like that no matter what. You could try unlocking it, locking, whatever, they'll stay stuck and it won't pop the door open. So what I found sometimes on this car, that if I unlock it, if I push it at first and then I unlock it with the key, it'll actually pop it open. But yeah, that's a very common Audi failure. I've had countless of cars that I've sold with that failure. Super annoying. Mercedes-Benz too, but I've seen a lot of Audis. But yeah, that gives my 9th spot away. Like I was saying, don't quote me, don't judge me, but I've had COVID for a couple days. Haven't had the time to wash my car. It's rained. Don't judge me. I know it's dirty, and I'll get to it. Just hold on. So the 8th spot of things I hate about this car are gonna be something Volkswagens and Audis are very common for, and that's going to be oil consumption. These things eat a lot of oil. It's very annoying, but it's just the way they're designed. They eat oil. And a lot of things that can be a PCV valve failure, which is another thing that's very common on these MQB engines, and Volkswagen and Audis in general, the previous generations, they've had oil consumption as well. But yeah, so I pretty much always carry a little quart of modal on me, just in case, you never know. Very common. You be driving in the freeway and then you're like, where's the gabagoo? Over here giving you a low oil, flat on the dash and everything. So yeah, that is something that I guess you can say annoying, but in, I guess, time consuming. But it's yeah, it's just Volkswagen now events. Now that we're also here under the hood, I'm gonna give the 7th spot to leaking water pumps on the MQB engines. Very, very common to have a leaking water pump, a leaking coolant reservoir, the caps take a dump, hoses cracking, very common. Just super annoying. I wish Volkswagen can get that under control, because I've seen it on vehicles with as low as like 17,000 miles. Go far that we had, same issue, water pump failure, reservoir failure, radiator, whole shebang. Seen it countless of times, so that is going to be one thing that's really annoying. So you pretty much have to be, if you don't figure out what's coming for you, you have to be topping up the coolant, changing hoses, changing parts, and maybe seeing if you can resolve the issue. But most of the time, well, like in my situation, I have 2 lifts here at the shop, so I could always lift it, check the water pump, whatever, see if where the water's coming from. In this car, the water pump replacement program had been done in it already. I mean, it's still pretty prone to leak as mileage keeps going up on this car. But the issue I was having was that coolant reservoir cap. Over time, they get kind of brittle, and they pretty much start leaking all over the place. I don't know if you can tell, I don't have the engine muffled cover, because that thing was completely destroyed from that thing shooting out coolant. So I just said fuck it, might as well not even run it. And I've had multiple cars not running it like this, even though they say over time it won't mess up your paint. But I mean, dude, I got 2 like rocks thrown at my hood already. There's like 3 dents. I'm gonna get it repainted anyway, so I'm not even worried about that. Since I'm here, might as well give a 6th spot to the direct injectors. On these cars, the seals are very prone to going out, especially over time, mileage, you know, all that kind of stuff. The seals give out. You basically end up with a stuck open injector, so it's just shooting gas. So you get a constant misfire. Car goes into EPC. Might not even actually run, because since it's just stuck open, it doesn't build up enough pressure for the rest of the rail. So that is also a big issue. On this car, I changed 2 sets of injectors to this day. One, they weren't failing yet, but the car was having a sustained knock in one cylinder, and we rolled it out to be a bad injector. That was one issue. And also I had a cold start misfires due to that injector being leaky as well. And well, the second time I was driving home and the injector just stuck open. It just popped open, so car got left stranded on the road, so I had to replace that as well. Good thing is I replaced it with the newest revision for this model this year. So since then, I've been running straight E85, no issues with my injectors or any of that stuff. I've had issues with my high pressure fuel pump and my low pressure fuel pump, but you know, again, I am running full ethanol, so pumps are notorious for giving out. And the problem wasn't even my pump, it was actually my fuel pump controller that I ended up replacing as well. Yeah, that wraps this situation right here. Next on the ringer, as number 5, it's gonna be the suspension for the S3. Only reason I'm saying the suspension for the S3 is because this suspension is magnetic suspension, or magnet suspension, electromagnet, whatever you guys want to call it. It's mostly found on some A3s, but mostly S3s. And this thing is very prone to failing, especially if you have a lowered suspension. Very, very prone to failing. Pretty much what happens is when it gets a bump or whatever, it won't be able to counteract the bounce as quick anymore, so it'll just be slamming into the top hat, basically. So it'll be bottoming out, let's put it that way. I'll just keep bottoming out. I wonder what's happening there, but yeah, I'll keep bottoming out. You might also get suspension lights, error codes, etc., etc. They're very prone to fail. This is my third one on the S3. Not difficult to change if you have the right tools, but yes. Back to number 4, let's get into the front end of the car. Number 4 is gonna be the DRL, sorry. I had a brain fart moment right now. Yeah, so basically these LED tubes, they have a little LED module with the lights. And over time, those little modules start getting super hot, start burning out. And I don't know if you can see on mine, but it's yellow. So yeah, when those go bad, they start turning yellow. And when they fully go up bad, it's super dim and just straight yellow. Mine look like they might be on the way out. But when I took the module off, it looked like the module had already been replaced. So that might be from the previous module burning out, because it did look like there was another thing that burnt out in there before. But yeah, it's very common on these cars, especially with the LED headlights, because there are two different sets of different headlights with the bisenons and the regular bulb, etc., etc. But yeah, these are mostly found on Premium Plus special packages or Prestige packages. Whoever built this car, thank you for those lights, because they're really useful. They have the all-weather light, which is basically a fog light integrated, which is this bulb right here, and then you got your low beam, high beam right here, all the good shebang. And it has dynamic turn signals, which honestly, very nice. Number 3 is gonna go to one of my pet peeves on this car, and it's gonna be these plastic trims. They are known for bubbling up. You can try to re-clear them, recolor them, whatever. It's not gonna work. Just get yourself new ones. Very annoying to work with, especially this one. As you can tell, the driver wants the same way. That's something that I absolutely hate. I'm gonna have to use another S3 as reference for number 2, but it's gonna be the OEM exhaust system. Only reason I'm saying this is because over time, especially if the car is tuned, the OEM electronic valves that this exhaust have, the little motor tends to either seize up or just stays open. Even though it tries to close, the valves will never fully close. And what happens is the exhaust, especially if like mine, you had a resonator delete, it starts sounding kind of funky at different RPMs. I would be like at 3,000-4,000 RPMs, and it would be like humming super loud because one of the valves and one of the sides was closed off. Well, the other one was open, so it was like, it would make a really weird sound. And also the muffler, especially when tuned, pops and bangs, all that type of stuff. The muffler material inside the muffler is not the best quality. So what ends up happening is it becomes loose inside the muffler, so you get rattling inside the muffler, and also you might get a change in exhaust frequency. Very annoying. Can I live with it? Yes I can, but it's not something that I like that about my car, especially if it's like a tuned Audi S3 and then you pull up to somewhere and you just hear the rattle or the exhaust sounding super funky. I had to use this car because I currently do not have my OEM muffler anymore, since my muffler collapsed internally and the valves ended up failing. I just ended up going with an MBRP exhaust, and I'm super happy about it. No issues whatsoever. Car sounds good, gets to that throaty sound, not too high pitched, not too Honda sounding. Like it's just perfect, especially paired with my CTS downpipe. So yeah, that covers number 2. Number 1 is gonna go to the most annoying thing about this car. It also happens in a lot of A3s, S3, RS3s, and it's the clear and the sunroof. This clear over time just ends up getting demolished by the sun. It'll just start peeling off, making the car look bland up top, as you can see. It's a very common thing in these model years. It's just honestly the thing that bugs me the most about this car. Sorry, I just keep hitting the latch so it just locks. But it's one of the things that bugs me the most. Especially when I'm like chilling by my car and then I look at the roof, I'm like, oh god, this thing needs to be repaired. And it certainly does, because it's getting worse and worse with time. I know it's probably kind of hard to see because the car is dirty as hell, but hey, I gave you guys a warning. But now that we concluded the dislikes, time to go to the likes about this car. Okay, so why do I like this car, or what do I like about it? Before I get to top 10, I'm gonna have to give like an epilogue on this. So my love for this specific model came out when I saw the H&R SEMA car, 2015 Audi S3, same color, nice wheels. It was super nice. And since I saw that car, I instantly fell in love with the 8B model year S3, especially in that color. Always my favorite color. And you know me, I love red. So that completely got my whole attention. And that's number 10, which is the styling of the car. I feel like for an S3, it's always gonna have that timeless design because it has curves. It's not like a flat design. Like the fenders are flared out. It's overall sits nice. The car looks good. For being a 2015 car, I feel like it looks good. Yes, of course, like any older car, it's gonna have issues, and you know. But I feel like this car looks good. It's nice. It's sporty. It's quirky. I love it. Number 9 has to go to the styling of the steering wheel. I love the way this steering wheel is with the flat bottom. Super fun to drive, especially since I added these paddles. Super nice. Super fun to drive. Has all the bright buttons. You can change dynamic modes in it. Everything's perfect about the steering wheel, with the white stitching, with the S3 emblems. It's a good steering wheel. It's actually very fun to drive with. Feels like you're in control. Not really anything bad I can say about the steering wheel. This is one of my favorite things from this car in general. For number 8, even though as much as I hate the infotainment system or the radio, I have to say Audi's Bang & Olufsen system is one of my favorite audio systems in any car I've had so far. It has the perfect amount of bass, perfect amount of treble, and it also has surround, so it creates like a bubble of music like around you, and it does it all within like seconds. So you can hear like back vocals, you can hear all little details of a song you had not heard before. I love the Bang & Olufsen system in this Audi. I love the subwoofers it has. It's a pretty well put out audio system. I haven't had any issues with it. Nothing of that sort. Just beautiful audio system. That's all I gotta say about that. For number 7 in this car is gonna have to be the ride height. I feel like the H&R Super Sport Springs paired with the new Speed RS wheels and the Firehawk Indy 500s give it a good stance. I have 10mm spacers in the rear and no spacers in the front, so I feel like it gives it that kind of aggressive but at the same time flush look. I use this car mostly for drag racing, so it works the way it's supposed to. I'm very happy with the way the car handles, drives due to this setup. I feel like that would be my number 7 for sure. My number 6, of course, is gonna be my MBRP exhaust that I was talking about earlier. Super nice exhaust, 4-inch tips, narrowing to a 2.5. Very nice. Keeps the RPMs, keeps the sound over the RPM sounding very good. No drone inside the cabin. None of that awful stuff that you can get from either the OEM resonator or the OEM catback. None of that good stuff. It sounds loud, but not excessively loud or Honda sound like or whatever. Sounds good with pops and without pops. I do have both types of tunes for this car, so I'm very happy with this exhaust. It was one of the pricey things for it, coming at $1,300 but I feel like that money was well put since my OEM exhaust was failing and this exhaust completely changed the way this car sounds and I absolutely like it. MBRP did a good job designing this exhaust. Very nice. I love it. My number 5 for this car, it's gonna be the support for it. This car over the years has gotten a lot of support from various companies, both power, suspension wise, exhaust wise. A lot of things have been made specifically for this car, not only for track use, race use, or even just for daily driving. This car, from the moment they came out of the factory, has evolved so much due to all these products that this car is a whole monster, a whole different monster since it came out. They make different turbos, they make pretty much anything you can think for this car. It became a very tunable car, which is what a lot of people look forward to, like myself. A car that you can mod a lot, it can maintain the power, and there's accessible parts. Because for my previous car, which was a Volkswagen R32, and it was a Mark V, so it was a dual clutch, there wasn't a lot available for it in terms of tuning parts. None of that stuff. It was mostly full fabrication. If I wanted a Vortex supercharger, I had to fabricate that because everything had to be ordered from Europe. So at least with this one I can say I don't have to order something all the way out. My number 4 for this car are gonna be the fueling capabilities this vehicle has when tuned. When tuned and upgraded, you have the capability of putting multiple fuels in this car. For example, this car is running, like I told you guys, on full E85. That's something that could be attained with just as much as a high pressure fuel pump upgrade in a tune. Of course, if you want to fully maximize it, you start getting deep into it. You change low pressure pump, high pressure pump, even run multi-port injection if you want. But these tuning capabilities for fueling are very good for this car, especially since this car kind of adapts to the style you drive. So it's very responsive, especially on E85. It's very responsive versus 91, of course, because it doesn't heat soak since ethanol runs cooler than gasoline. So it's just something nice for these cars. And well, of course, the Cobb Access port has well, it doesn't have them yet, but it will have flex fuel capability, so it's gonna make switching between fuels super simple rather than having to go look for a pump for E85, look for a pump for E30 or whatever you guys have where you guys live. It's gonna make it very convenient, but for the moment we have different maps for that type of stuff. But I feel like it's well put out because not a lot of cars can run E85 on direct injection, and these cars can. And I feel like that's very well put out for these. For number 3, like I was stating about the towing capabilities, for me number 3 is gonna be having the control to choose what type of fueling I want, what type of tuning I want, and see how much ethanol percentage is running through my pumps. As you can tell, I have a Innovate Motorsports flex fuel sensor, not the flex fuel kit, just the flex fuel sensor, ethanol sensor, and I'm running, of course, Cobb Access port, so I could see all my monitors, and then I could see intake air temp, coolant temperature, knock retard, air and fuel ratio, because these cars run wideband from factory, so that makes it all easily manageable. So I could see if maybe I'm feeling like my car is not running right. I check the access port, I see if maybe like it's retarding the timing too much, it's not hitting boost target, something's wrong with the rail pressure, AFR, you know, all that good stuff. Something very, very accessible for these cars. Like I'm saying, this is something very accessible for these cars, that especially if you're pushing a big amount of power or pushing power in general way larger than what it comes factory, it's something good to have on these cars. So you could be checking your monitors, be checking all types of stuff on these cars, so you can run logs, send them to your tuner whenever you feel like something's not right, or just if you want to keep an eye on something, you could data log it, check it on the monitors, you know, that type of stuff. Very, very effective. You can also switch tunes on the go rather than like, let's say you go to a tuning shop, you get it tuned like computer, like right to the computer, so you can't like change tunes, etc, etc. You can do that on the go. You can also, like in my case, you can set your traction control, your launch control. You can erase codes, calibrate your wastegate, readapt your transmission control module, because on these DSGs sometimes they do have the tendency to act kind of funky, especially after like launching hard or something, so you just need to recalibrate them. And it can all be done with this Cobb tuning access port. Very, very nice. Yes, it is on the most expensive side, but it's worth it. Would you look at that, under the hood again. For number 2, I'm gonna choose my stage 2 hardware, which is gonna be the intake, downpipe, intercooler, charge pipes, turbo muffler delete, turbo inlet, high pressure fuel pump, grounding kit. That's gonna be my number 2 for sure, because this hardware has been super reliable, no issues. The only thing that I've honestly had an issue with was the turbo inlet pipes gasket, and that's well because, you know, rubber gets very brittle with heat, and of course it does plug into the turbo. But yeah, it's pretty much what makes this car function, the hardware. I feel like it's very well set up. I've changed parts because the original owner of this car did have kind of a, I'm gonna say like a stage 1.5 setup for this car, because it was well put together, but I felt like some of the things didn't meet my expectations or work the way I wanted to, so I replaced a couple of things. So I perfected to what I wanted it to be. So all this hardware seems to be working perfect fine with this setup, and I'm very happy with it. And I'm very proud of how far this car has come since I got it, because it's been a battle trying to fix issues maintenance wise and all that type of good stuff. But you know, it's something you expect with cars age and mileage. Obviously, it's nothing out of the extraordinary, especially me that I have a long relationship with Audi and Volkswagen cars. I've worked on them since I was little, so I've always been very intrigued with them. I'm never gonna take anything to a shop to install. I install everything myself. I take pride in that. I take pride in my accomplishments that I've done with this car. And yeah, that's it for number 2. About to get to the best part. Number 1 spot is gonna go to my tune, and I am tuned by Equilibrium Tuning out of Swiss City. I am tuned by Matt at EQT. Shout out to Matt, he has helped me out a lot through this process. Helped me run the car super healthy. Helped me get through a lot of issues this car has had, especially with my fueling. It randomly had fuel dips and fuel cuts and all that type of shit. So shout out to him. The car is making a conservative 403 horsepower and 409 torque. So super healthy side on this car. It's running an 11.6 quarter mile, full bolt on the 85. It's a pretty quick car. It's my daily, so I drive it a lot, putting up miles on it. I'm running the EQT pump, super reliable, no issues whatsoever, no controllers, none of that stuff. And I'm honestly happy with the car, how it is now. I'm obviously planning to go in big turbo, multi-port injection, all that stuff in the near future. But for what the car is right now, I am happy with my build progress and my setup.